Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of Friday, July 11th. Well, happy Friday, everybody. We made it through another week, and I hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. Everybody still has their fingers. We do have a lot of stuff to talk about, so we'll just get right into it here. Fishing has no boundaries. Great local group that gets folks with different disabilities out on the water once a year. They do this. They launch out of Governor Nelson State Park, and it's a deal where folks volunteer their pontoon boats and their time to take folks out on the water that might not otherwise have an opportunity to fish. So really, really great event. They're hosting it tomorrow, July 12th. They launch out of Governor Nelson State Park. It actually goes in like two waves. So there's a morning session and an afternoon session. But and just kind of a heads up, that launch is going to be busy tomorrow. So have some patience if you're planning to use that launch. But yeah, great event. I want to thank everybody that organizes the event. Of course, all the folks that take their time to volunteer their boats and their time. And yeah, we're happy to be a sponsor of the event too. We donate bait to this great event. So if you would like to get involved, you can go on their website here, fhnbmadison.com, and you can either get involved by donating your time or donate money directly. Just click on the donate tab here. But yeah, thanks to everybody that sets up such a great event, and good luck to everybody participating in that tomorrow. Just a reminder that the county is reviewing their Chapter 71, which is the ordinance that requires floats on vehicles on our frozen lakes here in Madison. That's Mendota, Monona, and Wingra. So anyway, they're reviewing the whole ordinance, and they have an opportunity where folks can provide public comments. So you can just go to the Dane County website, or if you Google review of Chapter 71 Dane County or something like that, it should come right up. But anyway, you can click on the button here, and they got a little thing where you can make your opinion heard. And those comments are open until July 15th. So what is that? When? Monday or Tuesday or something? Anyway, it's coming up. So if you care about this, I know a lot of people have real strong opinions about it. So log on and make your voice heard there. A little bit of shop news here. I made a post about this yesterday, but we are excited to be carrying Douglas fly rods. So this was a brand that I wasn't familiar with, but had the opportunity to try out a couple of their rods at a Trout Unlimited event, and I was very impressed. So these are award-winning rods that are at an affordable price. We carry the LRS version here and the ERA. This LRS version is a extremely nice rod for the price. Kalen Hoggard, who I've mentioned many times on this report, is on the USA fly casting team. This is the rod he uses for his casting competitions. So that gives you an idea on the quality there. But these ERAs are awesome too. This is the model that I casted at that event and was instantly impressed. And they come in at a good price point, $149 to $169. So happy to be carrying those. And so swing by the shop and check them out. Other stuff we actually. Right now, as I'm recording this, do not have leeches, but I do have another batch coming this morning. I've been told that they are good, and so I will have leeches probably through this week. But if you want to stock up, get in here and do so, because this is probably the last batch. We still have some of the DNS cooler packs here. Swing by and grab those. Comes with a frozen ice pack, $12.99, and keeps your bait cool during these hot summer days. And posters on the front door, the same as it's been for a while. We got a blood drive next week, July 15th. Oh yeah, so the 15th is a Tuesday. That's up the street here at the church. And then Kalen Hoggard, who I mentioned is going to Italy to compete in the world casting competitions, is holding a couple of events out at the Deer Creek Sportsman's Club. One is coming up Wednesday the 16th in the evening there. And yeah, it looks like a little casting competition, and I'm sure Kalen can show you a thing or two about your cast, no matter how good you are. And then they have another one on August 5th to raise money to help send Kalen to Italy. So that's exciting stuff. I think that's pretty much it for updates and shop news and stuff like that. So I guess we can just get into the report. I checked the DNR website. Other than the Fishing Has No Boundaries event launching out of Governor Nelson State Park over here, which will be, bigger event and take up a lot of that launch. It looks like there's only two smaller tournaments, 115 boat one on Saturday and 120 boat on Sunday on Lake Mendota. So you probably won't even notice something like that on a weekend. Otherwise, weather-wise this week, it's been warm with temps in the upper 80s most days, some scattered showers today, but the weekend looks nice, and outside of a little bit of a warm start, A little rain here and there next week. It looks like some gorgeous temps to look forward to. So make some plans to get out and do some fishing. The Mendota buoy is reading 78 degrees this morning, which is actually 1 degree down from last week. But we did get a bunch of rain last night, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But either way, 78 degrees is pretty warm. And as we move down the chain, that water certainly doesn't get any cooler. So I saw that the Madison City chapter of Muskies Inc. made another post here reminding folks that when the water is over 80 degrees, we should be giving those muskies rest and go find something else to fish for. So, and water temps are something that you got to watch here. I'll be talking about that later in my trout report too. So, check the water quality page here on the DNR or the Dane County Public Health page, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape. Esther Beach, maybe on Lake Monona's got a little something going on. Mendota County Park is just closed for construction. So yeah, water clarity and quality looks pretty good out there. Generally, as far as fishing goes around the chain, outside of some scattered gills on beds on Mendota, the spawn is basically done around town. And we're definitely moving into summer cruise control, where not much changes until things start to cool down in the fall. That being said, if it's panfish you're after, the outside weed edges are your best bet this time of year. Gills are got their post-spawn feed bag on and are generally hanging out on those weed edges. Many of those fish are also starting to suspend out over deeper water, though, on some of the lower lakes on the chain. Otherwise, with the weeds being pretty thick in many shallow areas around town, shore fishing for panfish can be a challenge. But if you can find pockets of the weeds or maybe some mowed weeds here in town, you can still find fish. For gills, spikes, or waxworms on an ice jig, or redworms on a little bit bigger jig work well. For crappies, crappie minnow or a minnow-shaped plastic on a jig under a bobber is a pretty safe bet. There's been a slight improvement in the perch front, as I've heard about a few perch being caught on Lake Monona. Otherwise, it's been real rough out there for perch. Largemouth bass anglers have been doing well up shallow with any number of presentations, but again, with the weeds getting so thick, weedless plastics and topwater frogs have been the most effective. Smallmouth bass are still being found up shallow early and late in the day, but for the most part, they've moved off to cooler, deeper rocky areas during the daytime hours. There again, any number of artificial lures will work, but I would slow your presentation down a little bit this time of year with the warmer temps. Like people can get a little sluggish when it's hot. Otherwise, on the live bait side of things, black-tailed chubs and leeches always work well for smallies. On the walleye side of things, the bite's been good around town, especially on Mendota, but if you're fishing from shore, it's starting to get a little difficult with the weeds and water temps coming up. But if you're in a boat, work rocky shoreline breaks near shallow flats if you're fishing during the day, and move up on those shallow flats during low light periods. Otherwise, mid-lake humps are all you really need to know about finding walleyes in the summer. A lot of fish have moved out there, and the bite on all the mid-lake humps has been good, especially on Mendota. No matter where you fish, though, on the live bait side of things, minnows will catch walleyes, but leeches have been working very well lately. If it's pike you're after, they'll grab just about any lure you throw at them, but our large shiners are a pretty safe bet on the live bait side of things. Haven't heard much going on in the muskie world, mostly because of the heat. There's just not a lot of folks out there fishing for them, which is actually good. And the same thing with trout too. And like I said, I'll do my little trout report at the end of this report. But if the water temps are above 67 degrees, you should find a different species to target. Yeah, but it is going to be cooler this week. I have plans to get out on Wednesday, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. But otherwise, when it's too warm, the smallmouth bite all around Madison is great, and I'll talk about that as well throughout the report. Otherwise, a little more detail here up on the north side. Cherokee is, a weedy mess up there, but, you could still run a topwater frog from shore if you're fishing at Cherokee Park up here. Otherwise, if you can launch a smaller craft at the School Road boat launch, you can get out in the channel here and find more weed-free fishing and some good bass action. A lot of smaller pike and maybe a catfish or two up there too. Otherwise, down to 113, the catfish have moved on and they're out in the main lake. You still could catch a catfish there, but you never really know what you'll find. It could be walleye, pike, bass, panfish, anything moving through there. So it's always worth a look is what I tell people. But otherwise, yeah, those cats have moved down into Lake Mendota and are just kind of cruising around looking for food. I've been hearing about them being picked up at many spots around the lake. Warner, Launch, Tenney, University Shoreline. So yeah, they're out there and they're big and they are hungry after the spawn. Otherwise, as far as Mendota goes, like I said, the bluegills the bluegills are still spawning on Lake Mendota and even a little bit on Monona, but they're, for all intents and purposes, the spawn is pretty much done. Bluegills, you can still find them on beds on Mendota, and if you're looking for that, look to shallow, kind of gravelly areas. If there's some weeds in there, even better. Otherwise, look to outside weed edges for those post-spawn hungry fish. You might stumble along on some crappies, but I don't hear about many. And the perch bite on Mendota has been basically non-existent. I think I've talked to one person that's found really any numbers of fish in the last 2 months or something. So hopefully that improves. Maybe as the weed line gets a little stronger, more defined, they'll move out there and folks will start finding them. But it's been pretty quiet. But like I said, largemouth bass are up shallow. Smallmouth bass are hanging out in shallow rocky areas during low light periods, but they move out to deeper shoreline breaks, rocky areas out there. You can find some walleyes out there in those same areas too, and the walleyes will move up on shallow areas in the evening. But really, on Lake Mendota at least, the mid-lake humps have been great. You find a weed edge out there, Dunn's Bar, Brearley Bar, Second Point, Commodore, anything. Even like a Picnic Point area has been good too. So yeah, and the leeches have worked, crawlers work, minnows work, but it sounds like leeches are preferred. So yeah, get in and stock up on some leeches if you want to make that bite last. Otherwise, pike are pretty much everywhere. A lot of pike out there on Lake Mendota, and you can throw just about anything at them. Otherwise, good action down here at the Tenney Park Breakwall still. There's always something going on down there, as the current flows out of the lake, and below the Tenney Locks, same thing. I hear about some good action down there, mostly panfish, some walleyes, maybe a bass or two, and mostly during low light hours. Otherwise, yeah, as we move down the chain, bluegills on Lake Monona are out on outside weed edges. I do know that there are still some fish on beds because I talk to guys with live scopes and they can see them sitting on beds and they can see the beds well defined right on the bottom. But for all intents and purposes, the spawn's pretty much done, and you're going to want to be looking at that weed edge, maybe in about 10-ish feet of water, and working those. And the numbers of bluegills coming out of there have been good. And like I said, just a nice jig with a spike or a waxy, or a small jig with a piece of redworm is really all you need. The crappie action on Lake Monona, at least that I hear about, is pretty much limited to the Monona Terrace Wall, as the crappies have moved back in there after spawning, and the bluegills are starting to show back up too, from what I hear, and they'll remain there all summer. They like the shade that the wall provides over there. Otherwise, decent panfish action in Monona Bay as always, and I haven't really heard, and good bass too, good largemouth bass, but I haven't really heard about any crappies over there or anything. Down on Lake Wingara, you got a lot of small gills in there to keep a kid busy. Otherwise, great largemouth bass action. And I haven't heard about muskies because, like I said, it's just been too warm. Walleyes on Lake Monona tend to run a little bit bigger, but aren't the numbers that you get on Mendota. But mid-lake humps, you got the bar out here, you got the rock pile. Look at some of those spots for those fish. Otherwise, and for panfish too, look in bays like Turville Bay, Weechawak, formerly known as Squaw Bay, can be also really great if you can find a weed edge or pockets in weeds. That should work great. And like I said, the water's just been too warm for muskies over here. Down to Upper Mud, the dredge hole out here. Work the weed edges out there for panfish, the shallow flats around the dredge hole for largemouth bass, although it is pretty weedy down there. Same thing as Monona on Wabisa. Work weed edges and you'll likely find panfish. Heard about a little bit of walleye action near Hog Island and some down here near Babcock and Bible Camp, Rockford Heights, kind of that end of the lake. So, and yeah, again, haven't heard much about muskies from down there. Lake Kiganza, find a weed edge, you'll find some gills. I have heard that they're starting to suspend out over deep water. And I did hear a little bit about suspending gills on Wabisa too. And it won't be long before we hear about the gills on Lake Monona out over the deep water, 10, 15 feet down, and you can just drop a line over the side of the boat. And I'll have to remind myself to mention the Monona rig or the Gene rig or whatever. It's super effective for panfish. But I guess that pretty much does it for the. And on Kiganza too, a little bit of walleye action along the state park over here too, if you're looking for walleyes. Otherwise, other places around the area, the Rock River, at the dams, Indian Ford and up to Jefferson have got a nice mixed bag of fish. I heard about some channel cats being caught up there. Flatheads should be around pretty soon. I haven't heard much off Koshkanon other than some decent walleye action, mostly up here on this kind of northeast end of the lake. And that's pretty much a trolling game up there all summer. Beaver Dam's got a good catfish bite, and I've heard about some crappies over there. I haven't heard much off Devil's Lake in a while. Otherwise, the Wisconsin River has been really up and down lately, so make sure you check the flows before you go up there. I checked them this morning, and they look good. But it's been up and down. It depends on if you get rain up north or something like that. It can really bring those levels up pretty quick, too. But otherwise, if you're fishing downriver, just look to outside bends and deeper areas. Backsides of sandbars are always got a little, kind of deep area around those. So That's where you're going to find walleyes and smallmouth bass. Wood along shorelines good for smallies too. Otherwise, the dams up and down the river are always going to be holding fish this time of year. Heard about some decent catfish up here at the Sauk or Prairie Sac Dam, and always a nice mixed bag of fish: white bass, smallmouth, anything that swims you can find up there. Lake Wisconsin sounds like good walleye and sauger action, but size tends to be, or from what I hear, has been a bit of an issue. Otherwise, the bays, different bays around town, Moon Valley, the Grade, and stuff like that have had some good panfish action. So yeah, but otherwise the dams, Wisconsin Dells, Castle Rock, Petenwell have all had, a nice mixed bag of fish. I haven't really heard many reports off either of the lakes up here, the Petenwell or Castle Rock, but the walleye bite's usually pretty good out there this time of year. Haven't heard much off the river other than the folks I talked to that head out to the barges, and they've been doing well. It's a mixed bag of sturgeon, pike, walleye, white bass, the typical river mixed bag dam situation. So I got that. Milwaukee, they're getting kings out in the big lake. Noah Humfeld's been doing well over there, as has Austin Rogotsky. Give those guys a call if you want to get out on the big lake. Otherwise, the Milwaukee River, all the runs are done, long done now. But you do have good smallmouth fishing and pike fishing. That gets better every year over there. So if you find yourself in Milwaukee, get over there and check that out. Haven't heard anything out of the harbors. I imagine the perch bite over there is going to start kind of soon. I think they start to move in kind of late summer in towards the harbors there. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it for most of that stuff. I'll do my little trout spiel here. The creeks have been in good shape. We've had some rain on and off, which can bring levels up and down. But the big thing is do make sure you're checking water temps. But I would think that the creeks should be in good shape for the weekend, and it's not going to be too hot. So I think 82 and 83, I think, for the highs, and then next week looks real nice, 70s for the highs. So comfortable temps to fish, and the trout should be in a good mood with cooler water. But you do want to make sure you're checking the temps. They do say if it's above 67, well, it says 68, but I've always heard 67. But anyway, check your water temps. We do sell thermometers here. You can buy a fancy one from Fish Pond here, which works great. But otherwise, just a simple meat thermometer works. And on the gear side of things, if you are able to find some cool water, suspending or sinking jerk baits like Rapala Husky jerks and countdowns always work. Crappie sized tube jigs, the same stuff I mentioned every week. Panther Martin spinners always good. If it's live bait you're using, it's hard to beat a redworm. Drifted through runs and tailouts. Otherwise, on the fly side of things, leeches and nymphs work year round. Even a pink squirrel can be good in the summer, but woolly buggers, anything like that is always going to catch you fish. Otherwise, on the dry fly side of things, the hatches are getting to be minimal. You might find a blue-winged olive hatch in the morning or in the evening. Caddis are pretty much done for a while. They'll start back up when things cool down. But any number of small mayfly or blue-winged olive imitations are great. Otherwise, as we get into summer here, the trico hatch is the thing. So tricos are a small mayfly. These are like size 18s here, I think. And the tricos come off very early in the morning, sometimes before the sun even comes up. But if you can get out there when it's cool, maybe on a hot summer day, it's always nice to be fishing early in the morning like that. And those bugs will hatch, and so you'd use maybe like a little parachute, something like this, or a crippler or a crippled trico is a good option then. But then those bugs hatch, and then they actually only do their thing for like a couple hours, and then they die and they fall right back on the water, and then you get what's called the spinner fall. So you want to have some trico spinners in your box too. But in these hot summer days, it can be nice if you can sneak out, maybe even before work, just get out there and try your hand at the trico hatch, because they do come off usually through mid to late July, and then all through August too is a good time to be out. Otherwise, it is full-on terrestrial season we are in right now. So ants, beetles, crickets are all good options. We're not quite to hopper season yet, although Harley was out yesterday and he was getting some fish on hoppers. So anything buggy you throw out there is going to bring fish in. Otherwise, when it's too hot to fish for trout, like I said, I love going to the rivers, whether it's the Wisconsin or the Sugar River, Pecatonica. There's a lot of good smallmouth water around Rock River. It can be great. But yeah, got full selection of flies. Topwater stuff is just a blast to fish for those fish. And, we got full selection of some really cool custom flies here too that are tied by Aztec Fly Fishing, and then Ben Lipchansky. These jiggy, meaty things are awesome too. They're subsurface fly, but mimic crayfish, and they look really, really great in the water. So swing by and get stocked up on those. I think that pretty much does it for the report. One got a little long on us, but we had a lot to talk about. So I do appreciate you tuning in. Do post your comments and catches below. Love to see those. Feel free to call the shop at 241-4225 if you want us to expand on anything. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, I do appreciate you tuning in. I wish you luck out there, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.